Please welcome the very lovely Cooney, everybody. Cooney. Cara, welcome. How lovely to see you. You look lovely in your red dress.
Thank you.
Yeah, some of the gentlemen in the audience are barking. They're barking in a rather sophisticated fashion at you.
Well, I have my archaeology look, the khakis, the shirt,
Yeah.
and then I have my talk show look.
You should do a bit of archaeology and that stuff. That
I
would.
don't think it's practical. It doesn't
yeah?
work quite so well.
I don't know. Bending over with a little trowel, it would work for me.
You know what? I'm not going to touch
I think I
that.
found something.
I'm not touching. If I showed up in this in Egypt, in the middle of Cairo,
No,
anywhere,
maybe not
it
in
would
Egypt,
be really,
yeah.
really bad.
Yeah,
and
no,
I'm
that-
already a circus freak in that town.
Why are you a circus freak in Cairo? Why?
Well, I'm 6 foot tall, so
Yes, you
I
are
walk
6 foot
down the
tall.
street and seriously, blocks of people stop and look at me and go, "Oh my God, children cry! Look at the tall lady!" And well, I have one good story. So Cairo is a safe place. I'm safer there than Los Angeles, New York at 4 in the morning. I feel very safe, but it's a very in-your-face place.
Right.
So people are always talking, yelling, "Come to my perfume shop. Do you want to see the pyramids?" Blah blah blah.
Well,
Hey, tall
that
lady, hey,
happens
tall
out there
lady.
in L.A. You'll hear that any night of the week out there.
One day, and this is towards the end of 6 months in Egypt, and I was very like, don't make eye contact with men, just keep walking. And so I'm walking along, and this big man in a galabeya, which is like a long flowing Egyptian robe, I can see he's going to block my path, he's going to make trouble. And I think to myself, oh, just keep walking, and this big man stops in the middle of the sidewalk and says, "Welcome, tall woman." And the whole street laughed. Everybody cracked up. I cracked up, and the freak show went on. It was all good. So,
I should have done that when you come out. When I introduced you, I should have said, "Welcome, tall woman. Come, sit." Now, what have you've been doing out in? I first met you at the.
we met at King Tut in 2005.
Right, the King Tut thing.
Yeah,
where
we go back way
Oh,
back.
yeah. Well, not as far back as the stuff you're usually working with.
No,
but
the dead
far
people,
back.
no, not that
Have
far
you
back.
ever been looking on a hieroglyph in a pyramid and seen anything that looks like Bob Barker at all?
No. Well, there is a hieroglyph for a little old guy. With
Well,
a
no,
little
that ain't him.
so-
No, if you're looking for a... Oh, yeah.
So no.
Now, what have you been doing out there in Egypt, then? What is this lost queen of Egypt?
Lost Queen of Egypt, Hatshepsut. Can you say it?
Hatshepsut?
Yeah, that's good.
Hatshepsut.
Yeah, because most people can't pronounce it. They say Hatshepsut.
I
and
say
they stumble
Hatsheput.
over it. That works too.
Hat she put.
Good, but you have to go with the hat.
Yeah.
You
Hat
practice.
she put.
You actually practice. How will I remember this? That's
Yeah.
smart. Hatshepsut was a queen of Egypt.
Right.
And actually, at the death of her husband, and then 7 years later on, she took on the kingship. So she actually claimed to be a man,
Why did she
went
claim to be a man?
topless, wore a false beard.
She went topless and claimed to be a man? Who does she think she is? Jack Nicholson?
I don't get that at all.
It's a callback to a joke we did
Usually
another
people
night.
go to Hillary. I didn't get that.
Well, see, Jack Nicholson was on the beach recently and he took his top off and he's got lady breasts,
Oh, he's
really.
got man breasts.
Yeah, man breasts, yeah.
Well-
lady breasts would be a different thing.
They found the mummy, and the mummy's got
The mummies?
breasts. So
Mummies?
if she did go topless, even in sacred priestly processions, she had it going on.
So she said, I'm a man, I just happen to have breasts, don't worry about it, I'm the queen. King.
King. She couldn't use the word queen because queen is just the wife of the king. So it doesn't really mean anything. So she
Right.
had to take on the masculine gender. She had to be very ambivalent about it because she was still a woman. Everyone knew it. And she
Right.
had the full support of the priesthood. She had the full support of the elites. You can't make this kind of a shift without that support.
Yeah, and a bit of surgery, to be honest.
Which she didn't go that far.
No, right, okay.
You know, just did the dressing and all of that.
All right,
and, you know,
yes.
the depictions.
Move on.
Yeah. And the cool thing about Hatshepsut is that everyone calls her the scheming queen and the queen who tried to take power away from the rightful heir, who was Thutmose III. And really, she's the one that laid the groundwork for this guy's empire. She's the one that laid the groundwork to make sure that he had succession of the throne without any sort of contest. And he was able, they call him the Napoleon of Egypt.
Who was the Napoleon? Thutmose?
Thutmose III.
Thutmose
And this
III.
is the guy that she ruled with. He was her co-king. So she didn't push him out completely. She ruled with him, but she was much older than him.
Right.
And then she gave him the reins of the army. So if he wanted to take her out, he could have.
What,
He just
take-
didn't.
what, take her
As
out?
in
Like-
kill her,
oh, kill her,
assassinate,
yeah.
take her out.
I thought you meant, you know,
take her out.
let's go to Hooters or something.
No,
you
no.
know. Hey, what now? Why? I mean, you're an Egyptologist, right? That's your job. You're an Egyptologist.
Yes.
What? How many Egyptologists are there in America? Do you have a union?
No, we should.
You should have a union, yeah.
In America, 500 maybe.
Yeah. Is it a tight knit community? Is a lot of backbiting and scheming and?
There's not a lot of backbiting and scheming, but we do get together at yearly conferences and drink a lot.
I see.
Lots of gin and tonic. This is where I learned to drink whiskey straight up on a dig. So we do, yeah.
How dare you say that about Hatshepsut?
Do you know how much I'm going to get? Just this Discovery Channel show, do you know how much hell I'm going to get from my colleagues for this?
What?
Because there's a part where I say, I would love to believe that she was trained to be king. And then they cut me right before I said, but of course that would never happen.
Right.
So they're going to see this, and they're all going to write me emails and say, Kara, how could you say such a horrible thing? And I'm going to get all of it.
It's show business, bitch. Get used to it. Tell them that.
Exactly.
Tell them that.
They cut me when they cut me, and that's where they cut me.
That's the way it happens.
Yeah.
Kara, I could talk to you about Egypt for, years.
You love talking about dead people.
Well, you know what it is? I don't know if it's just Egypt or it might just be you. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's Egypt at all, but it's always lovely to see you. Kara Cooney, everybody. We'll be right back with Jeff Keith. Please welcome Kara Cooney, everybody. Dr. Kara Cooney. Hello, Kara.
How you doing? Okay.
What?
I feel like you're stalking me.
I'm not stalking you.
This is talk show stalking.
No.
The whole monologue, the book, the hat.
Yeah. I was just trying to make you feel comfortable, that's all, because I knew you're an Egyptologist. I thought if I threw in a few things about Egypt, maybe you would calm down. Clearly, I was wrong. Fine.
All right.
Do you ever go uphill skiing with Tim Daly?
Yeah.
What about that? No, I
can't believe you just showed this on national television. It's bizarre.
This is a very expensive book, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like $120 because it sells in euros. It's Leiden University. You keep talking about Amsterdam, right?
Right, yeah.
It's right next door. So you go to Schiphol.
What?
Schiphol? It's the airport right next to Amsterdam. So you fly into Schiphol. Instead of going to Amsterdam, you go the other direction, you go to Leiden. That's where this book was born. So it's 80 euros, but if you transfer that into dollars, it's like $120, $140. You can't get it on Amazon.
There's not even
so
any
you can show
it,
but they can't buy it, and they only, it's for institutions, academics. I mean, so, they can try to buy it, but there's not that many.
Look, I don't want to hurt your feelings. They don't want to buy it. And I'll tell you what, it's too ahead of them. It's too ahead because this is your expert's book on ancient Egypt. What I want to do is get a brief overview of ancient Egypt for the folks here who are clearly fascinated by the whole thing.
Right now, I mean, when 7-minute overview.
I put that,
That's such a hard question. Where do I start? I mean,
we're talking about 3,000 years of history.
3,000 years of history. So you start around 3000 BCE, and then it all falls apart with the Mark Antony Cleopatra debacle. So then they become part of the Roman province, and that's 30 BCE, and then it's a disaster after that. But, I mean, the thing about Egypt that's the most extraordinary is that you've got continuity the whole way through. And
3,000 years unchanged?
It's not unchanged, but the religion's the same, the language is the same. It changes through time, just like English. You listen to Shakespeare in English, it sounds different than English now.
Right.
So ancient Egyptian, if they heard a bunch of Middle Egyptian and they were speaking late Egyptian, they'd be like, what the hell is that? It sounds really weird. So it would be a little bit different. But the Egyptian language, hieroglyphic script, I mean, nobody knows.
Right.
Because the ancient Egyptians didn't have vowels in the way that they wrote.
Well, they would go say but would they say the things like would they say owl, eye, sideways head? Like they're writing. Like if their writing's all like sideways head. They go owl, eye, sideways head, cat, dog, man.
The owl is an M. It's an M.
The owl's an M.
It's an M, like the letter M. No, that's the quail chick. The quail chick is an ooh.
Well,
You've been trying to study hieroglyphs on your own. Why didn't you call me?
Well,
what?
I wanted to impress you with my knowledge of hieroglyphics.
The quail chick is an M. That's
I thought the owl was an ooh because owls go ooh, and I thought that's why they had an owl.
The owl is an M. It's a preposition for M, but it's also just a letter. So it's a collection of signs. Some of them are phonetic, right? So M, P, B, all of these other things. And some of them are sense signs, what we call determinatives. So if I wanted to write the word house, pear in ancient Egyptian. So I do a P, which is just a little rectangle, and then an R, which is it looks like a little mouth,
Right.
And then I put a little house sign underneath it.
Why don't you
and
just
that's my
draw a
word for
house? If you want to draw a house, just draw a house.
The Egyptians believed the hieroglyphs were they call them medu neter, they call them the script of the gods.
Oh.
That when you actually write something down, it comes into being in the next life.
Really?
So this is sacred stuff. You put this on a temple wall, that will come into being in the next life.
Was everybody very literate? Were the poor
No,
people?
no,
It was
no.
just the priests and stuff were literate then, was it?
5% of society
Right.
could really participate in all of this and were able to read and write, even able to afford coffins and all
Well,
that.
yeah,
So
but
it's
why
a
are
very
you so
small
fascinated
percentage.
with death, by
I
the
don't
way? What is your thing with death?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I am fascinated with death. But in a
Who's
very...
this guy here as well?
That's a lady.
That's a lady?
She lives in Frankfurt now. It's a lady.
Really?
She
She doesn't look German to me, I gotta be honest.
She's in a museum called the Liebig House, and she has 3 coffins there. And I spent many days with her, you know, looking at her. But actually, her mummy's not there. It's a weird thing. The Europeans would go into Egypt. They would find these lovely coffins, you know, triple set, you know, fits one inside another, like a set of Russian
like
nesting dolls.
like the dolls.
Right?
Oh, that's
so she has 3.
adorable.
It's so cute, yeah. So she has 3 of those. But they took her mummy out, and nobody knows where the mummy is. I know.
Oh. Do you ever get freaked out if you're working late at night in a you know, and there's like, you know, there's mummies and dead bodies around, and maybe you're wearing a little outfit and it's hot and you take your glasses off and you let your hair down? Does that ever happen?
No.
Okay.
No, but in Cairo, when I worked on a lot of coffins for this book, and a lot of them were in Cairo, and there the bodies are still inside of the coffins.
Oh.
And they're smelly, and they're just
Really?
kind of...
Smelly?
Yeah, it's strange. It's not like... Well, I've actually never smelled a fresh, rotting, dead body.
Yeah.
But...
There's
imagine-
no business like show business.
I imagine it would smell bad.
Yeah,
But
I'm sure.
a 3,000-year-old dead body, it smells musty, and, you know,
Yeah,
if
like-
it's badly mummified, it doesn't smell very good.
Right.
You want to be cremated, you want to be buried? Which do you want?
I mean, I think probably
There's a lot of choices.
no, cremated.
A lot of choices.
Cremated.
You go to your local funeral parlor, and they're going to be like, we can do this.
Well,
this,
they're
this.
not going to be
What coffin
asking
do you
me, are they? I mean,
They could. You could decide this in advance, plan it out in advance.
right, well,
you know, they're
well-
the commercials. Do you want your
Well,
loved
you're
ones
the one
to make
that
these
see-
choices for you, or will you make it for them?
Well,
you could do it in advance.
you've seen all the options. What would you do?
Cremated. Or put me
Cremated.
in one of those little cardboard boxes and just throw me in a hole. I don't really care. After seeing all the trouble people go through, it's not worth it.
Really?
It's kind of stupid.
Yeah, and then you get somebody like you coming along a couple of thousand years later, digging up, going,
studying their
"Oh, look, a
coffin."
femur!" Yeah, no, that's it. It's lovely to see you again, Dr. Cara Cooney. Everybody, we'll be right back. Dr. Cooney. How are you?
It's great to be back.
It's nice to see you. I haven't seen you in an age. Where have you been?
know. I've been watching TV. I've been doing Facebook. I've been watching my Egyptian people take back their government.
It's what the heck is going? Now you've been out to Egypt a lot, haven't you?
Yeah, about every year for the I don't know, since 1994 when I started this whole thing.
Did anyone see this coming? Were you aware of this?
I did not. I mean, we knew Tunisia was going to go, and everybody who goes to Egypt and works there knows that the people are not happy with their government system, that the gap between rich and poor is getting wider every year. And you knew something was going to happen, but you didn't know when, and this was the month. It was absolutely crazy.
It's popping off.
Yeah.
And have you got colleagues over there right now?
Yes, a lot of colleagues, a lot of
in
friends.
In the museums as well?
In the museum, in Luxor, and different sites around the country. A lot of them have left, but a lot of them are still there.
What's happening with that? Because I noticed that there was some people were attacking the museum or something. That seems odd to me.
Now, the looting needs... Before I go into this, I should say that for every instance of looting, there are 1,000 Egyptians ready to protect these monuments with clubs in their hands.
This is their national treasure.
National patrimony, but it's also the cultural heritage of the entire world. And if it hurts us to think of the Mask of Tutankhamun being harmed, it's really a punch in the gut to the Egyptians. I mean, this is it's their emotional connection to their land. So there are people with the human chain around the museum. That is true. I've heard of stories about possible looting at Luxor Temple, and they used the loudspeaker at the mosque to alert people, and people came out from everywhere with clubs to go against looters who had guns. So So for every instance of looting, and looting is opportunistic. There are opportunistic people everywhere in every society.
Is there a market for this stuff?
Of course there is. Of course there is.
You can buy illegal mummies?
Go online. Well, the mummies is a little different, and we can talk about that. But there has been an antiquities market for generations, and if any of us can do anything, it's not buy antiquities. This is something we should all.
I don't think many people watching the show are going to be buying antiquities. You know, that's more your cable audience, I think.
You would be surprised, so just don't, especially now, don't even think about buying some Egyptian antiquities.
I always think it's Bond villains go, yes, I'd quite like to own that Tutankhamun's pants.
Well, and it makes you think, why would anyone go into the Cairo Museum and try to steal some of these objects that are so incredibly well known?
Yeah, why?
Well, there are many Egyptologists who suspect, and I'm not on the ground there, so I don't know. I can't tell you the honest truth, but who suspect that these are Mubarak's men who've been sent in to mess things up a little bit, to destroy things, to make it look like the mob outside is a mob that needs a firm hand, that needs a crackdown, that needs to be controlled.
It's almost as if Mubarak were some kind of dictator.
It almost is like that. Almost. Yeah. And so, but it backfired. I don't think, I mean, these guys rappelled down from the ceiling.
They rappel?
One of the guys landed in a case, got hurt, and couldn't get out of the case, and then got carted off to jail. And
really?
Yeah. I mean,
well, that can't be. That's not rioting then. There's no rappelling and rioting. That's an organized thing. Nobody says, quick, get the rappelled.
No.
The rappelled?
Well, and they're trying to pass these guys off as ignorant thieves who don't know what they're looking at. I don't know ignorant thieves who can rappel down from the roof of the Cairo Museum.
I don't know anyone who can rappel.
Yeah, I know. But, you know, the people are out there in the square. They're trying to bring democracy to their country. So I think those two things need to be separated, and a lot of people are trying to put them together. Right.
Okay. So what do you do now then? Are you going to go out there? I mean, because it's dangerous out there, Cara. You got a baby. You can't be going out there right now.
I probably maybe not this year, because with the baby it's hard to go to Egypt.
What age is your baby now?
He's 10 months old.
Oh, right.
And he's just starting to walk, and he's just adorable and sweet. But I think it's a little hot, and you know, food, and it's difficult.
California or Egypt?
Egypt. So no, I think I'll wait to take him to Egypt later, maybe in a couple of years. But I have friends who brought their little kids out to excavate out in the sand in the desert, and so.
Do you worry about the curse? I mean, every time you open a tomb, there's a curse.
I have one friend. We called her up, and she works for a group called Chicago House, and we all got together and we're like, oh, how's Jen? Called her up, and she was at work. She was just working, there's a revolution going on around you, and yet the archaeologists, we keep our heads down and we just work. So, but, you know.
That's...
nerdy.
It's taking it too far, though. I mean, because you got to be out there. You know, there's that stuff's been there for 5,000 years. It can wait a couple of weeks until this dies down.
Well, and this is another point I do want to make clear, that these antiquities that are possibly being looted, these things that people are opportunistically trying to steal, nothing is as important as the people on the ground.
Of course.
And, when you see all of this revolution stuff that's happening. And yet, we as archaeologists, we're freaking out, absolutely freaking out, trying to figure out which objects in the Cairo Museum were hurt. And we can't get clear answers for all of this. And it's either 20 objects that have been damaged, or it's 70 objects that have been damaged. Now, and we can't figure out what the actual story is.
Isn't there a tradition of this, though? I mean, the science in which you work in, Egyptology, there is a tradition of looting and robbing and damaging the graves, because the graves are full of treasure. I mean,
Egypt has the curse of an embarrassment of riches. And its preservation is so pristine, so perfect. Those sands just cure everything and keep it all, the heads of mummies and all of that.
Right.
You have everything preserved. And so there are storage magazines. This is where they store the antiquities, hundreds of them around the country at each different archaeological site.
What's a storage magazine?
Storage magazine is where the archaeologists find trinkets that aren't good enough for a museum, and they put them in storage because no one's going to ever want to view them.
That's the artifact I'd buy.
So there's, thousands of pieces of ceramic. There's little Shopti figurines. There's parts of bodies. There's all kinds of things in these storage magazines.
Parts of bodies?
Well, it's unusual to find them intact. So you'll have a skull and a torso and a hand and a foot, and you kind of put them in a storage magazine. I was waiting.
Terribly sorry about that. I feel awful now. Shut up, Jeff.
Well, you do find mummy genitalia, but that's a different. But they found that
you do find mummy.
You do find mummy genitalia, but those heads.
I beg your pardon, Jeff.
I mean, it preserves. It preserves everything. It's extraordinary. It really is. So, Egypt has, I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of objects throughout the country that need to be protected. And that's why, okay, let me put it this way. When Iraq fell, and you saw the looting of the
terrible
and you
stuff
saw the looting
there,
of the
yeah.
museum there,
Yeah.
and you saw a lot of people behaving very opportunistically.
Right.
I remember I said to my husband, that wouldn't happen in Egypt. The people would stand firm and they would protect that museum. And you know what? It happened. They held hands in front of that museum, they stood there and they protected it, and that's happening all over the country at these storage magazines, these sites, where you have things that would be easy pickings for a looter to take and then bring to an antiquities market, some sort of dealer. And we should be so proud of people for protecting
I hope
it for all of us.
your archaeologist friends are safe, and I hope the people of Egypt find some kind of peace very soon.
too.
It's lovely to see you again, Cara. Cara Cooney, everybody. We'll be right back. Cooney, everybody. How are you? You look great, girl.
Oh, thank you so much. It's great to be back.
It's lovely to see you. You haven't been here in such a long time.
Like 3 years?
It seems like an era of Egyptian kings.
And we talked about the revolution last time, so a lot's changed.
What revolution?
Egyptian revolution.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh, yes. That was a thing. Yeah.
But it's calm.
Yeah. Have you been back since?
No, but I'm going in March.
Oh, you
going
are?
in March.
Okay.
Yeah. Work in the Cairo Museum. It'll be good.
Yeah, you'll be all right. You know what you're doing. Yeah, you know your way around there. You know and also you're pretty much with dead people most of the time anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, but I'm bringing my son, I'm bringing my husband, I'm bringing the whole family, and we'll work in the Cairo Museum, coffins and dead people the whole time.
Yeah, and they've been dead for a very long time. They're just dusty. They're like Jeff.
Some of my best friends live over there, yes.
Yeah. Hey, I started the book. I'm about, I'd say,
Page
20.
15?
Huh? What?
15?
No, I'm a little further in than that.
Good.
You're going to get flack for this because you're a scientist. You know, you're an academic.
Okay, so I teach at UCLA. I have graduate students, very serious work. I go to faculty meetings.
Yeah.
And my work in the Cairo Museum is very thorough, detailed. I make a contribution to the field,
Yes,
right?
I know you do, I know.
And this, I just wanted to have fun. I wanted to write something sexy and
It's
human and emotional.
I know.
And follow someone from cradle to grave and track her life and her decision-making the whole way through.
But a real person, of course. Pronounce her name properly.
Hatshepsut.
Yes.
But the fact that we can't pronounce her name is what it's all about. Because I have to resurrect this poor woman. I have to bring her back from the dead because we've all forgotten about her.
Well, to be fair, the Egyptians forgot about her first.
They had her chiseled out, the reliefs and the stones, and how all of her statues smashed and all of that.
Is this?
But she's a badass.
Why did they have
she's
her?
my badass.
She's much more Cleopatra than Cleopatra is depicted, don't you think?
No, I mean Cleopatra. How did she? She bought her way through sex to 2 Roman generals.
Right.
She breeded children to create a dynasty in the Eastern Mediterranean. This woman couldn't do any of that. She actually denied her sex, turned herself into a man.
Like Elizabeth I, nearly.
In a way.
Yeah.
I mean, she's doing everything right. She's matching herself to the system as much as she can. But because her success was so great, it was that much easier for the men after her to take credit. Does that make sense?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
But I mean, but let's be clear. I mean, it's not easy for women today to find political power, right?
Okay. No, of course not.
Right? Okay, so female president, Congress, all of these. I mean, female president is possible, but it's not something that's generally given.
Do you think we're a bit behind the curve with that in America? It seems to me like we've had a lot of females running countries in other countries in the West, but America, not yet.
It's humans. It's everybody. It's
Really?
just the human race. It's the way we work. But that's part of why I wrote this, because I wanted to know why it's harder for women to gain those pinnacles of power.
Why is it harder for women to gain pinnacles of power?
Okay, well, I talked about this backstage with a couple of people. And if I'm going to encapsulate it.
Okay.
Okay. So men have like a testosterone ambition, and females have an oxytocin ambition. So my ambition is to keep my family safe It's to protect my child, my husband, whatever. You're going off out into the world and you're making connections and you're thinking broader. So then I bring it back to Hillary Clinton and what she once said, that a woman, if she has pictures of her family in her office, people look at that and they say, oh, is she doing her job? Does she care about, is she just spending all of her time on her family, or is she actually doing her job? And what's the name of the woman who was the CEO of Yahoo?
Oh,
when
yeah,
she had the baby and everyone freaked out because she had a baby.
Yeah.
And if a man had a wife with a baby, I mean, no one would have said a thing. He's got a baby at home, okay, that's fine. But a man is able to, oh, and it goes to the microloan thing, right? So
explain.
Okay, so the microloans, they don't give them out to men. Because if a man gets a microloan, he takes his $50 or $500 and he goes to a bar and he builds social capital. He makes networks and he buys drinks for all the guys.
Right.
A woman gets her $50 and she buys the cow and she makes cheese and she makes the business and she takes care of her family.
Wait, where is this going?
So, in places where they give out microloans.
Okay.
But so, a woman is always going to be looking inward and a man, not always, because there's gradients. But a woman will be looking inward and a man will be looking outward. And so it's just harder for a woman to gain power. Now, all of these things are surmountable. All of these things can be transcended, but I think it's better to know about it.
Is that not, does it not exist in that way because traditionally men built the system? So therefore, if the system, you alter the system...
Do you have a womb? Do you have breasts? Do you have to nurse? Do you have to
I know
deal
what they
with all
are,
of that?
but I mean, I'm just saying... No, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm saying if you change the system, then surely it becomes easier, right?
It becomes easier, but then somebody like Hillary Clinton steps up to take on power, and people distrust her motives. Who is she taking care of? Is she taking care of the whole, or is she taking care of just
Well, that's the
her
American
own?
political system. Let's remove it from America and have someone like Benazir Bhutto, perhaps, or Golda Meir. Wildly different in their politics, but both very successful leaders tragically, in the case of Benazir Bhutto, cut short. But,
And thank God we can transcend it, and thank God it happens. But it is rare. It is rare.
Well, yes, it is
and
rare.
So for me, Hatshepsut is a resource. So she's a badass who did it and saw the obstacles in her path and managed to transcend them and do what she needed to do to get to that place, to that pinnacle.
For a woman then to become successful in politics, whether it be in ancient Egypt or the modern United States, must she then deny some form of femininity? Must she claim some kind of testosterone type ambition for herself?
I don't know. I mean, Hatshepsut had to, but for her it was very specific because she was ruling with a co-king and she was ruling with a young man who was getting older. And when he became a man, she's the senior king. You're gonna have a woman tell a man what to do? That's untenable. That's not something that people
happens
do.
in my house all the time.
In your house, in your house, but not in public, not in front of other people. So for her as a woman to tell, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
And I like to run things the same, but that's us. But for her to then tell this co-king, this junior king, as a woman, what to do and to hold the senior position was problematic. So that's when she started to depict herself as a man.
I'm trying to think, putting it into a modern context for myself. I grew up in the era of Margaret Thatcher in Britain, who was extremely unpopular for her politics. But I don't, with certain people, and of course extremely popular with other people for her politics. But I'm
not a fan. So.
Well, the thing is that whether you are or you're not, and I don't know anything about the politics of Hatshepsut, but whether or not you're a fan, it didn't seem to be... I can't remember it being because she was a woman. It was because of her politics that she was a polarizing figure. Even Sarah Palin, I don't think, who was a very polarizing figure during the McCain campaign, I don't think it was because she was a woman. I think it was because some people were very aggressively for her and some were very aggressively against her. But I don't think it was femininity.
Yeah, but how many people talk about what Sarah Palin's wearing, what Margaret Thatcher was wearing?
That is true. That is absolutely true, yes.
The amount of press swirling around Sarah Palin and her outfits and her shopping and what she was doing with her children or not, those are not the kinds of things that would attract
well, I think that's true.
For a
but
male
I think women are as guilty as that as men, though, don't you think?
Well, I mean, I'm wearing my black dress, so here I am.
It's very nice. It's very nice. Oh gosh, it's nice to talk to you again. I haven't talked to you in such a long time.
A while.
It's like a breath of fresh air. Yeah. Well, we're out of time. But this is very good and very interesting. And the fact that it's not fictional, but it's imagined, right?
I'm trying to tell it with as much life as I can. So there is conjecture in here.
Right.
It's not meant to be dry. It's not meant to be academic. It counts for nothing at my university. I mean, this is meant to be fun for me, to really tell a story as...
Yeah,
I mean,
but
I'm
you
trying
write
to
a book, it
resurrect
goes
someone
into
who's 3,500.
this is in the Smithsonian with all your other work. It goes there.
Okay.
This is part of the body of work. So in years to come, when they're looking at, Dr. Cooney's research into, Egyptian burial rituals. Oh, wait, what's this? A pot boiler with a picture of a map? Come on!
But no, if I can resurrect her, use her as a resource, dig up somebody from 3,500 years ago, I mean, that's a privilege. It's great.
You're very good at it. You're a very, very clever woman. You never cease to impress me and engage me. I'm delighted to see you again. Dr. Cara Cooney, everybody.